In 2006, I was a college student at ASU. I lived in an off-campus apartment on the ground floor. It was a block off of a major street, here in Phoenix called Baseline. These details are important. In the summer of 2006, Phoenix, Arizona was plagued by two serial killers. One was the Phoenix shooter, who ended up being a team of two guys, randomly shooting people, and the other was the Baseline killer, a rapist and murderer. Having two serial killers put the entire city on edge, and everyone was talking about it. I even saw articles in Time or Newsweek about the situation. So the semester in the fall of 2006 it just started. Now you may have heard this, but Phoenix is hot in August. It would get stuffy in my apartment, so I leave the window cracked a little because the morning air was nice. The blinds provide a visual cover. Anyways, one morning a strange sound woke me up. It was the crack of dawn, 4:45 a.m., and sun was just barely coming up. It was the sound of someone lightly tapping on the window, and it seemed intentional. In my tired state, I figured it could be a bird or some branches or something trivial. After about 90 seconds of nothing, the tapping returned, and it was absolutely purposeful. I was positive it was a human producing this noise. I thought it was my boyfriend, who thought I was cute to try and scare me sometimes. I decided I'd be a bit of a brat and make him wait, but I was also getting really angry. I was pretty upset that he was trying to pull a prank on me, especially when I was sleeping. So I planned on giving him a piece of my mind about this. At a certain point, I got up to get a glass of water, still being in the mindset of wanting to annoy my stupid boyfriend who thought this would be funny. Then I saw some movement through the slit in the blinds, so I marched over and yanked the blinds open, so I could see. It was definitely not my boyfriend. I said very loudly, "What the hell?" He sort of seemed taken back by anger, but only slightly. The man I saw will be with me forever. Or more specifically, his eyes and the feeling they gave me were insanely creepy. Honestly, words can't do justice as to how terrifying his eyes were. They looked like black orbs with no white in them, absolutely predatory. When I see pictures of Ted Bundy or Charles Manson, that's exactly what his eyes look like. Even if you saw a picture of how they looked, it's different than when you experience it in a person. It totally floored me. Something about this man was profoundly wrong. He was crouched down, like an umpire. He had on dark pants, a dark purple shirt, and a dark knife he had. Anyways, after I yelled what the hell at him, he whispered to me, "Can I talk to you?" If you want to know how insanely creepy that is to hear, just whisper that sentence out loud to yourself right now. It still sends chills down my spine when I think of how that sounded. His hand suddenly moved towards his waist. I later learned he would blitz attack his victims, and he probably had a gun. All that separated us was a mesh screen. Now, this had only been about a 3-second interaction at this point. For some reason, I thought of Ted Bundy and how he'd pretend to be crippled to target his victims. I thought of my mom telling me to not be nice to strangers. My thinking wasn't as calculated as all that, but it was more than the nano-processing of how to deal with the situation. So when he whispered that, I started yelling at him, "Hell no, get the hell out of here," adding in a couple slurs into that sentence. I shut the window and angrily locked it. I can't overemphasize how incredibly irritated I was that this person that had audacity to disturb my precious sleep. I let back down and wondered if I'd been too mean. What if he needed help? But that didn't really make any sense. Why would he be tapping and whispering if he was truly in trouble? I decided he was a creep after all. I was too annoyed to go back to sleep, but I sort of laid back down. I told my roommate about it an hour later, and she sort of jokingly asked if it could have been the Baseline killer. When she said that, my heart sank, thinking about it. His face looked exactly like it did in the police sketches that were on the billboards everywhere. The only problem is that those billboards show him with dreads, and the man in my window had no dreads. Apparently, it was some sort of disguise artist with weird wigs. I called the Phoenix police, and the detective I talked to agreed that it sounded like his MO. The suspect would say something to throw off his target, and then he'd blitz attack. The detective said that my angry response probably made me seem like too much of a hassle and moved on. I thought they might want to come out and try for samples, or to get surveillance video or something. But I didn't hear back from the detective. My parents freaked out. They got us knives, pepper spray, and put up signs. We then learned another tenant had complained that same morning. I never learned the details, but this idiot was apparently going around the complex trying to find a target. This stupid apartment wouldn't let us out of our lease, so we moved to a second-floor apartment right above our old unit. Anyways, on September 4th, 2006, they arrested Mark Gudo. I think the detective didn't call me back, because they were days away from arresting him. When I saw his mugshot, I was sick but also relieved. It was absolutely the guy outside my window. He's on death row in Arizona right now. His wife tried to mount some campaign to show that the police were framing him or something. On a personal level, it certainly would make for an interesting coincidence if this poor innocent man who they framed was also whispering like a creep and tapping on my window. I can't think of anything more scary than a serial killer tapping on your window. That actually happened to me. And if it happens to you, just scare them right back. Don't be afraid to be downright rude to someone who's injecting themselves into your space. It could save your life if you're not afraid to throw your way around and tell someone off. You can still be a kind and generous person and still tell someone to screw off.